Is the American dream still alive and well, or is it just a trap? Stick around and let's discuss it. Ah, the American dream. You go to school, you get an education, you end up meeting someone, you get married, you have a kid or two, you go buy a home, you buy a new car, you buy all the latest gadgets, you get a good job, you work your ass off. You do this for at least 30 or 40 years until you're 65 years old. You put your kids through college, and then you retire at 65 if you live that long, and you enjoy and reap all of these rewards from your employer for all of this hard work for at least 40 years of your life. Is this truly the American dream? Let's analyze this a little farther, and you guys see what you think. So let's first discuss the education route. You go to a public school, let's say, unless you're one of the privileged that their parents pay for them to go to a private school. You graduate with your high school diploma. You decide to possibly go to college if you can afford to do it, and if you can't, you take out student loans. You might be one of the lucky ones that their parents can pay for the college, but there's many, many people that can't afford this. So let's say you go out and you take out a few student loans, you go for a bachelor's degree, which anymore, I'm not sure what the stats are on it, but I'd say it's between $30,000 and $50,000 for a 4-year degree. And if you want to go for a master's or a doctorate, you can be up in the $100,000 range easily. So now then you've got that education, but you go out looking for a job in it and you have zero experience. And you find out a lot of the things you're being taught in these woke colleges are outdated. I know this to be a fact because I had went to school in computer sciences, and a lot of the programs they were teaching were so dated that there was nothing like that being used in any of the facilities that I had applied for work. So basically, because I had had the perseverance, let's say, to go to college, I took some tests in the IT departments, and they decided to give me a chance to come in, learn the new programming languages, and it was up to me, strictly on my own, to learn this. Yet, I still had all of this college debt. So was that part of it as simple as it sounds? Not really, guys. I mean, you went to high school, which is public education, unless it was private, as I discussed. But whenever you go to college, if you're paying for it on your own, all of a sudden those student loans come due once you graduate, and you could be paying anywhere from $200 to $500 a month on that. And if your job, whenever you first walk in entry level, is only maybe paying you, $18 to $22 an hour as a programmer, you're going to have a lot of that money, those living expenses that you need, the money for, ate up by that college education. Now then, do I think college should be free? Absolutely not. I don't believe that at all, because once we make something like that free, it loses all of its ability to show that you've had to work to gain something. In other words, it's not as, as valuable. If something's free, of course, it's not valuable. If it's something you pay for, then it's generally more valuable. So I don't think we should have free education, but I am saying that that part of the American dream, as far as I'm concerned, is false. It's a fallacy to think that you're just going to go to college, you're going to get out, you're going to have those student loans, and boom, you're going to walk in to a $200K a year job. It just doesn't work that way. So that's the first item of the American dream that I put a great big X on, and I call bullshit on it. So let's move on to the next step and see what we can come up with. The next big step in that American dream is you meet your sweetheart for life, you guys get married, and you have a kid or two. Now then, let's kind of step through that a little bit. Right now in the USA, as I've discussed in other videos, it's getting really tough to deal with a lot of modern women because of the feminist movement. So number one, meeting that perfect woman over here might be a bit of a challenge for you. Number two, if you do meet that perfect woman, you may want to consider a prenup, because most states will always favor a woman if by any chance you are in that 70% or 80 they say gets divorced. So the odds are kind of stacked against you on that part, guys. So, I mean, I'm not saying all marriages are like that. There are many people that get married and have a good, long, healthy relationship together. But statistically, most marriages are failing, and with the wokeness and the feminist movement, I don't see those statistics getting any better. This isn't the 50s or the 60s, guys, so you need to think this part through. If by any chance you do have one of those successful marriages and you do have those 1 or 2 kids, you need to think of the ramifications of this. You're going to have expenses out the wazoo. First off, it's going to be very expensive to raise them. At one point several years ago, I heard something about, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars it costs to raise one child. Well, somebody's got to pay for that, and it's going to be you and your spouse. So that means unless you manage to land that lucky $200K a year job, which we just discussed, I don't think you'll do straight out of school. You're going to have to go to work, and your wife's going to have to work also. When you're both working, who's going to take care of the kids? Well, you're going to have daycare, which is very expensive to take care of kids. And the other issue with having your kids in daycare is whenever your children are little and their personalities are forming, their personalities are going to form around those that are raising them. So if your kids are spending 8 to 10 hours a day in daycare and a few hours with you at night while they eat and then right before they go to bed, whose personality do you think they're going to grow up and they're going to have those traits of? It's going to be their daycare providers. So you better be sure you pick a good one. So that kind of covers what I think about that part of the dream. Again, I say it's false. I say it's a fallacy. It's very difficult today to have 1 or 2 children and raise them. Not trying to be a Debbie Downer about it. I'm trying to be realistic. I'm telling you what you can be in for unless you're one of those lucky few that land that big job, or you land that big job and your spouse that you're married to wants to be a homemaker and doesn't want to be a career woman and wants that tough, hard job of raising kids full time, which I'm telling you, that is a tough job for a woman. Raising kids is not an easy feat, especially if you're doing it full time. So that's another one I don't necessarily believe is a solid grounds on the American dream. I think it's a difficult area to say is going to come about for you. All right, so you've made it through the education. You've married that perfect woman. You've got that perfect job. Now then it's time to go out and buy that home and that new car. Okay, well, right now, from what I'm seeing, our interest rates are going up through the roof. The banks are tightening up on who they'll loan money to. So if you've got that $200K a year job, they're not only going to want to see that, but how long have you had that job? Have you had it? Have you been employed there for 2 or 3 years or 4? Are you going to have solid background and employment records with this facility or whoever you're working for? Because anymore, banks are going to want some kind of assurance that you're not going to take out this big loan and you're going to bail. The next problem is the housing market. The houses over here in the United States, in most areas, are extremely expensive. So the normal homes in the 3-bedroom, 1-bath, or 3-bedroom, 2-baths, maybe a couple thousand square feet, it's very, very feasible to be paying a minimum of $300,000 for that. And if you're in some place that's crazy, like crazy California, you could be up $500,000 depending on where it's setting at. Of course, we don't even want to discuss Oregon because that would be a big no. I wouldn't own any property there. That's going to be devalued quickly. So that part of the American dream, I feel like, is another one that I want you guys to have a very realistic view on. You're going to need that $200K a year job, or you and your wife are going to have that strong combined income. Remember, your debt ratio plays into that. So if you and your wife are both career people, you're going to have those 2 sets of student loans you're probably going to be paying off. So you need to take all of this into consideration. I want to be sure that you understand what types of things you can be running into as you're trying to live this American dream. All right. So you've made it through the education, you've had the kids, you're raising them, you've got the good job, you've managed to get the house. How are you going to get to work? Well, I guess you can go buy you one of these new electric cars and you can pay $70,000 for it. Or you can go get you a Ford pickup if you're a country guy like I am. And anymore, from what I'm hearing, Ford F-150s can range up between $70,000 and $85,000 for something that's pretty plain. That's a lot of money, guys. And whenever you have something like that with a payment at the interest rates they are now, and over a 5 or 6 year period, that's a depreciating asset. That vehicle depreciates the minute you walk off the lot with it. So it's not like it's something you can resell and get all your money back. Once you get it, you've got it. You better drive it until the wheels fall off and it falls into the salvage yard. So that part of the American dream and buying all of these gadgets and doodads and other things you're going to want to fill your house and the latest appliances and all that, we're talking some big bucks here, and it adds up quick. So it's not easy. This is not an easy thing to do, and a lot of people have this sense of entitlement and think everything's just should be given to them and it's going to be super easy. Well, it's not. So you're going to get a surprise kick in the teeth whenever you go out and do this. Now, if you're prepared and you think about it and you plan accordingly and you have an awareness of all these different things, yeah, it's feasible and you can do it. But you've got to be smart and you've got to plan and you've got to move forward in the right direction. Don't go into this stuff blindly, just listening to the American dream story or seeing somebody that's rich that got hand-me-downs from, rich grandparents that gave them money from their businesses or something else. I'm telling you from a realistic standpoint of a person that has to work, person has to go to school, pay for their own education, and they have to be very, very motivated and focused, almost with blinders on what their path is and how they're going to do it. So pre-planning is the key to this, you guys. So now I'm going to give you my opinion on this. I think the American dream was at one time something that was very plausible, and I think right now I feel sorry for all the young people growing up because I say it's bullshit. I say right now that if you try to follow these steps, you're going to get caught in this rat trap. You're going to be on this wheel like a hamster wheel, and you're going to be running every day. You're going to be getting up. You're going to be busting your ass. You're going to be working for somebody in some big corporation, making them a lot of money off of your sweat and labor. And then you're going to be coming home at night, picking up the kids. If you remain married and you're not divorced and paying out child support for the next 22 years, then you're going to be struggling along. And it's easy to get caught in this and think this is what life is. I say that's not what life is. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes people make in the world. I say this because I speak from experience. I've made that mistake. And I've made it for many, many years, and I'd keep falling into that cycle, the same cycle over and over, because I wouldn't think through it. I wouldn't think out of the box, and that's what I want you guys to do. This isn't for everybody, and what I'm saying is not everybody should do. This is just what I'm doing and what I've seen for me, and my general opinion of what I think it is for a young person to try to make it in this world today. It's going to be a hard, difficult thing, and people just keep getting caught in this cycle. And when you're in that cycle, you don't even know it. It's kind of like a person that's a drug addict or an alcoholic. They don't even realize they're in this cycle. They do it, and they feel good for a while, just like you do this, and then they get depressed and they get down and they see it's not working and they do it again, and they use these things to help them in their mind justify, and it does help them justify. It's been proven, drugs and alcohol, all this stuff, it helps them cope. It's a coping mechanism. So they're coping with different methods to keep driving to the next day, and then the next day their attitude changes a little bit and they go, yep, look, I got 2 steps ahead, and then the next week they go 2 steps backward. So literally you're that hamster running in that wheel and you don't even realize it. So my suggestion is for me, what I did was I finally seen this, and I started thinking out of the box. And that was after a couple of years ago whenever I traveled overseas, and I seen how there are many, many places out there that are less expensive. There's less politics. There's less wokeness going on, and that people are more content with a more minimal lifestyle. And I can tell you, for me, after being stuck in that hamster wheel for years and years, that minimalist lifestyle is extremely appealing. It's gratifying. It's better on your health. If you just think about it and even experiment, what I did, I looked at, like, my first trip over to Thailand was a bit of an experiment, and I went during COVID, and it was a little bit stressful. But once I got over there and I seen what it was like overseas, and I walked away from all this stress, and I was literally forced to get out of that hamster wheel. It took me about a week or two to get over the stress of running, and I kept looking around for those hamster wheels to get back in. And they weren't there, you guys. There was no hamster wheel to get in. So once I broke that habit and I broke that cycle, I started relaxing. I started seeing things from a different perspective, and I actually fell in love with it. So what I want you guys to do is consider thinking a little outside of the box. Don't feel like you've got to do the American dream just because you're in America. There's ways that you can utilize living in the United States that will benefit you greatly. Your money you earn here will go much, much farther overseas. So people can possibly retire early. Maybe you work as your American dream to working, building up so much retirement money, or putting some money in an IRA or CDs or whatever you see fit, clearing off any loans and that type of thing. And once you've got enough money built up, look at getting a job where you can be like a digital nomad. Look at different countries. I like Southeast Asia, but a lot of people do this in many different countries. A lot of people go to Malaysia and do this. Some people go to Panama and do it. Some people go to Mexico and do it. There are many, many places that have a much lower cost of living. You can have a much lower stress level, and they have good infrastructures, as good, if not better, than what I see in the United States today. So it's think out of the box a little bit. You don't have to be stuck in that wheel, you guys. You really, truly don't. There's lots of different ways. The internet today has opened up so many avenues of things you can do, and I want you to be able to be aware of this. And if you're already aware, hey man, that's cool. I get it, but I know there's a lot of people out there that aren't. I talk to people every day that ask me about my trips overseas, and when I tell them, they're blown away about it. And some of them are even wanting to travel over there with me next time for a vacation, so that they can see for themselves what it's like. And I think that's awesome, because I know once they've traveled to one of these places, they see the cost of living, they see how far their money will go over there, they'll see that they have lots of opportunities, that they can retire early, they can invest in a business over there, they can get a 6-month retirement visa and stay there 6 months, come back to the USA, work for 6 months. I mean, it is limitless what you can do if you just think, research, and think outside of that box. So this is Rick signing off. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell. I really appreciate it, you guys. The channel is continuing to grow, and it's thanks to you guys. I try to answer all the comments. I've had a lot going on, so I've been a little slow at some things, but I really do appreciate you guys greatly. So again, this is Rick signing off, everybody. I'll see you next time.